Welcome to this edition of a Workflow Wednesday call, episode 5. On this call, we are going to go a little bit faster. Every week, we've been building out new workflows. And also one of the things I did today before this call is I made sure we added our Built For You sales pipeline to the account so that I can show you how to edit that one and delete some areas of the pipeline, because as you can see now, I have our Built For You sales pipeline that comes with your Built For You Agency Elephant account. And then we have all of our pipelines here, which is a jumbled mess. So I am going to show you how to briefly edit your workflows or deal status or default or pipeline, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to show you how to edit that, remove some stuff, add a new one. Previously, we built service pipelines, workflows, we built sales workflows, but now I'm going to show you how to remove everything really quick, start from scratch. I am going to do this fairly quickly, okay? The reason why is from the beginning, we start our workflows from episode 1, we build it really slow. Episode 2's, we add a couple things. We are now in episode 5, which means we are going to go a little faster. Anything you want to add, Brian, as you turned off your camera prior to me doing this?
No, I was going to get some more water.
You
be right back.
You scumbag. All right. So this is our deal status. This is our pipeline or our workflows that is located under settings. In the middle of your toolbar, you will have your deal status. The important thing with workflows, which I want to go over, is this should be, and you'll notice you have a new pipeline button here to get you there pretty easily. If your pipeline looks like this, please don't freak out and DM me that your pipeline's broken, because I get that usually once a day. It's not broken. You just got to click view leads. You can toggle between the two. Okay. So this is what our pipeline looks like. The importance of having workflows is to have buckets that everything that happens within your agency, you add people to those buckets so that your staff can work them efficiently and effectively. And the goal is eventually to get away from having your inbound phone calls determine the effectiveness or efficiency of your office, and also determine the sanity of your staff. That is the goal of workflows. We want to make sure our inbound service and our inbound phone calls do not determine the effectiveness of our day and the culture of our office, really. So here's your workflow. I'm going to go into the settings section and I am going to go to deal status. And your pipeline, when you sign up with Agency Elephant, I'm going to make this a little bit easier for you. I'm going to delete out our service one that we have. I'm going to delete out our sales workflow that we have and our service workflow. And I'm going to start this from scratch to show you how easy it is. Okay. I'm going to start it with our Built For You sales pipeline. I'm going to go through here and simply delete out all of the stuff that we have on here that we have built over the last week. Anything you want to highlight, or maybe I'd love if you could share while I'm doing this, Brian, the lift that you've seen in your agency from really implementing your workflow.
Yeah, it's November, typically a slower month, I feel. And Ariel, how long have we been utilizing the workflows on the dashboard for sales and service? A month? 3 weeks?
It's like 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks, a month, somewhere in there. And we're at 135% new business this month, year over year. Seems like things are getting handled more efficiently. We're not forgetting, oh crap, I forgot to follow up with that person. You know, like all the things that slip through the cracks. I feel like when it's there and visible and you're tracking it and measuring, it's going to get done. And I've started to realize that it's probably just my anal retentive nature, but I hate having things on that dashboard for too long, unless it's on the sales side. On the service side, it's a little bit different, but it's like, let's get this stuff going. She's the same way. It's been super smooth for us.
You know, I let things slip. I let things fall through the cracks. Just today, I got an email from a customer asking if I had reviewed their billing account, changed it to monthly from OnePay, and if I added a discount back to the account that fell off. And I let that one fall through the cracks. And that was because I didn't add them to my bucket. So making sure that you are adding those kind of things to your service bucket will help you hopefully minimize how many things that you let slip through the cracks, but it will not work unless you are consistent. So here is our automated sales pipeline that comes with every Agency Elephant account. Every one of these statuses has automation attached to it. I'm going to show you, we're going to build out a service workflow, and we're going to leave this default one as our sales workflow. And if you're like, Matt, I have a default one because it's my built for you, how do I make it a sales workflow? Well, you simply hit the edit button and change that pipeline name to sales workflow. Okay. This is very straightforward. A lot of our users, pretty much all of our users are built for you at this point, and they all have that default status. You can change the name of it to sales workflow. You can delete out certain sections if you'd like from that workflow. So it's just leads, prospects, proposal, sale, no sale. If you want to, one of the things you can do to remove all of the automations that are attached to the account, and we went over this briefly yesterday, is if you want to, you can come in here and change all of these, because your pipeline will look something similar to this. You'll have all of these new, you'll have all of these statuses over to the right for the automated sales pipeline. And this is how we physically set up your built for you sales pipeline. So if you've got all of these in these different sections, and I'm not going to build out the whole thing, yours will have all of these. If you want to remove those automations, so you start with just a workflow, which is honestly what we recommend. Your built for you comes with the sales pipeline because it is built for you. But I always recommend deleting out these if you want to start fresh, or you want to start with nothing firing off so you know everything that's triggered. You can come in here and make sure you remove all of this stuff and hit none. Make sure you're deleting out these groups as well so you can start from scratch. This is your sales workflow now, right? No automation attached to it, ready to go. In order to build a service workflow, it is very straightforward. You simply add a pipeline. Now you're going to name that pipeline. This one's going to be called service workflow, right? Service workflow. Okay. Hit enter. It submits it. When that happens, as we've mentioned, it will create a few statuses for you, some placeholders. First thing you're going to want to do is change these sold, qualified, new, not sold statuses. I change them all to select type. That way it removes. And if you've noticed on your pipeline over here, the bottom buckets down here are quoted, sold, not sold, and unassigned. This is how you can track premium on what is also being tracked up here. It is done over in this section. And I am going to help you set up your sales pipeline today to reflect those specific tracking statuses. That was something that we didn't go over last week that I want to go over today. I'm going to show you how to assign drips to specific buckets when you're ready. Those are the two things that I really want to highlight and go over today. But as you can see, I removed all of those from here. And now the next thing I want to do is change the name of my service bucket. So I'm going to have billing issue, and I'm going to save that name. All of this is done over in your actions button over here. Everything we do on our pipeline is done in actions. We do not use this section because it is a singular copy or move. And we prefer to, on our pipelines, always carry over the prospect and the customer group where they're required to stick, because your pipeline moves groups. You don't want to detach customers from the customer group, so that when you need to send out that broadcast to the customers, your data is clean. Okay. So we do not recommend using this section because it is one-off moves. It does have a place, but not for what we are discussing today. Any questions about what I'm going over really quick as I'm editing some of these service workflow names? Nothing in the comments over there. Perfect. So I'm going to change some of these. New car. I'm going to change this to pending cancel. Okay, this is going to be some of our service workflows. And then I'm going to delete out this last one because I don't need it. And that is how you simply add a new workflow with that pipeline button, how you change the tracking of it, and how you edit the name of that pipeline. Okay, so this is how you add that workflow. You can change the name of the workflow over here if you want, delete it out entirely if you wanted to. I recommend you don't delete anything. You just edit and change the name of it because it'll make a few steps quicker, okay? So now that we got our pipeline all completed, we've got our sales pipeline over here, we have our service pipeline over here. You toggle between those two by clicking into the pipeline button. I just want to see sales right now, or I just want to see service right now. And as you are adding people into this bucket, these buckets as they're calling in, one of the easiest ways to do it is as you have a customer call in, search that customer's lead profile, click into it, and you can always put them into the pipeline that you want to put them in here. So if Matt had called in and he wanted to add a car, I'm going to say a customer wanted to add car, VIN number is like my VIN number.
I like it.
I feel like that's a real VIN number. I think that's how they create VIN numbers, to be honest with you. They just slam their keyboard and whatever comes out in 17 characters, that's the VIN.
That's definitely a Subaru VIN that you just type.
Gosh. Okay. So this is how you add people to buckets. It is the easiest way. If you come in here and you search, for example, I'm going to search Ariel. She doesn't exist in my account. That tells me, oh, we haven't added this customer to our account. Two different ways you can do it. You can add them in manually here, or you can put them directly into the bucket that you want to put them in. So if Brian needs to be put into my service bucket, and let me change this so it's not the same number. I want to make sure that one, he's a customer, right? I want to make sure Adam is a customer, and I want to put it in my service bucket. Guy's always late on his bill, so he's in a pending cancellation. That is one way to add them straight into the bucket if they're not already in the account, okay? That is the easiest way to add them straight to your account and to a bucket if they call in, okay? Now this customer will only have the customer group attached to them because there's no automation attached to it that moves groups. Okay, pretty straightforward. That is how you add people into your buckets if they're not in your account. If you haven't imported a clean customer list or haven't been clean with your data, that's how you easily add them to the system into the buckets. Any questions on that that we want to go over specifically? Again, the point of your workflow is to have a pulse of what is going on in your agency from a service and sales perspective. You can always add buckets as you are finding, like, for example, these are not all the service buckets that I deal with every day. And if I'm coming across something that I want to make sure we add to the service bucket, I can simply add a status. This is just a singular bucket. And I can call this, for example, I have a lot of missing document issues. I want to assign this to my service workflow. What pipeline? Service workflow. What's the name of the bucket? And hit save, okay? You don't need to do checklists or anything like that at this point. And as you can see, it added it here. If it adds it somewhere down here, you can simply drag and drop to make sure the placement is where you want it on your pipeline. And as you drag it, it saves it so that now when I refresh this screen, I'm gonna see a missing documents. But wait, Matt, what if I add a status and it doesn't show up? So for example, if only some of these boxes are checked, you are only going to see some of those statuses, right? So you're like, well, Matt, I added my status, it's not showing up. Come over into the little edit button and make sure all of them are either checked or unchecked. Okay, or if you do that and you're not seeing your statuses, make sure to also, if you have multiple people in the account, just view it by all members and the pipeline you want to view. That's how you make sure you can see your statuses. Okay. Usually it's 99.9% of the time operator error on not viewing by the right person, the right role if you have multiple roles, or the right pipeline. Okay. That is how you do a quick problem solving of what you're looking at. Okay. Questions about some of that? Matt, my pipeline's broken. What do I do? Just click the view leads.
Yeah, we get that one every now and then.
We get that one all the time. So these are your workflows. I am going to teach you the importance of tracking your stuff down here, okay? With our new Agency Elephant dashboard, We want to make sure we're tracking our goals. We want to make sure we're tracking our opportunities and what's closing this month. We want to make sure that we're on what's our daily pace, what's our monthly pace. All of this is done by using your pipeline correctly. And when you have people in these statuses, for example, let's say Matt was a new sale, making sure you're using the premium value, making sure you have the right estimated close date on here. I closed Matt on the 17th. Clear out the notes if the notes aren't about the sale. If you're confident they closed because you actually sold it, just make it to 100%. And accidentally dragged it to 6. You can always edit this too. It doesn't have to be done just on the move. You can always click the little green 99 or whatever that confidence is and edit this, okay? This is how Brian tracks all of his notes in his account. So if he's as a customer that it was in a pending cancellation, he can come in here and say, oh, well, did somebody call them? Well, yeah, Ariel called on 11/16 to let them know account was late. He can keep notes on here so that when he comes in here, he can say, is my staff doing what they should be doing? Yes. Ariel also called on 11/17 again. You can keep these notes in your account so that I would recommend your staff and the agents, whoever's working on this, put a comment on what you've done so everybody in the office knows what's going on.
Keep in mind, this is just a deal status note though. Okay, this is just a note about the current status. This isn't a note that you're going to save in their account. If it's something that you need to save for documentation, click on their profile like Matt just did and add the note in here. Those notes are just about the status of the sale or the status of the service. Once you just get rid of them, disclose them out of that pipeline, those notes go away. So just know that.
Correct. You always want to make sure that's something that you need to track from a note perspective. If you're having phone conversations with somebody and you want to, wanting to have a kid in 2022, like if you want things on here to track on what you guys went over on your phone conversation, this is where you do it. Okay. You do not want to do it over here. Or you can always come in here and copy all this information if you want to make sure that you're putting it in the leads account, and then you can paste it here. If it's important, you can always do that, okay? So, Joey, what would be a best practice? Would it be a best practice just to copy and paste the deal status notes and profile when you're done? It depends on what your situation is. If you want it to be notated in the account, I would personally, if it's important, especially if you spoke with the customer, like for example, Brian said, yes, I'm going to pay this. I probably want to copy all the notes and say, spoke with customer, said he'd pay it, copy it and put it in the notes, because if he doesn't pay it, I can say, well, Brian, you said you were going to pay it. I have it in my notes. Okay, that's something you should do as well. Now, I'm going to show you how to update these sections. They're honestly one of my favorite sections that we now have quoted, sold, not sold in here for our sales workflow. That way you can track premium here, but it also shows your premium you're tracking here. Okay, so very, very simple. In your deal status, the area that we removed, you simply add that status. Make sure you hit the blue button to make sure that it saves, because this one is a hard save. You need to make sure that it's saved. This person was quoted because they were in the proposal status. Yes, I want to change it. And then not sold, I want to make sure I toggle not sold, right? Those are things that you want to do. Very simple to edit and change those sections so that when you're in your pipeline, oh, look at that, 2,500 sold, right? Or if I put this person into the proposal, it's going to say I have quoted 2,500 sitting on the table waiting to bind. You see it here, you see it here. You can change what you're looking at. So if you're like, well, what did we do last week? Well, Matt's going to be gone because he was done today, this week, right? So you can change how you view your statuses. And I typically in my agency want to see a rolling 30 days or till the end of the month. If you're using this really cool forecasting tool to forecast premium, if you are not viewing your calendar with enough months, it won't show all of those forecasts. So if you want to see everything coming up that's pending, you want to make sure you change this section, okay? It's something you want to make sure you do. That way, in your dashboard, you can also see what's closing this month. You can see opportunities up here in the premium. You can also track your business goals, etc. Okay, that is something you want to make sure you're doing for our new dashboard. Questions about some of this so far? Just as an FYI on your dashboard, there's a little refresh button up here to refresh this to make sure you're seeing everything. Yes, you can always refresh your browser and it'll do the same thing, but you can also do it here. Okay, those are some things to be aware of.
Any questions?
Your workflow does not have to be advanced. Your workflow doesn't have to have all of these areas. Your system comes with a sales pipeline that you can rename to a sales workflow if you'd like. You can edit these sections if you like. That's important. Prospects, in my opinion, are qualified because you talked to them. Leads, in my opinion, are unqualified because you have not qualified them as a prospect. That's my opinion. The reason why I like to use some of these different statuses and stuff is because in our new leads manager system, we can see, hey, I want to see everybody that is in my pending cancellation status. I want to see everybody that's in, whatever status it is. It'll show you. I want to see everybody in proposal. I want to see how many communications I've had. I want to see the last time I talked to them. These are all new cool features that exist on your lead manager. But you're like, Matt, I don't like all of these things. I don't want to see all of these columns. Well, you can simply edit your column settings, okay? Where you're like, hey, I only want to see deal status, name. I don't want landline. I want mobile. I don't want assigned to. I don't want lead source. I don't want last updated or last touch. I don't want communication. This removes all these things. As you can see, it removes all those pieces from this section. If you don't like seeing the deal status, remove it. See what you want to see. Okay, this is something to be aware of that isn't part of the workflow, but something I wanted to go over why we don't have questions. This is why we use all of these different segmentations in your account, because you can filter and sort your list based upon these. Questions, concerns, comments, hangups?
The hardest step is just doing it and changing your business. Like that was my hang up. It was like, God, I know I need it, but I don't. Like what we're doing now was working, but could we be working better? And so, as well as I do, I was kind of trigger shy on utilizing the pipeline. We had a system in place that worked. And so I didn't want to take a step back, but I think if you ask Ariel and myself, we're both thankful that we did. Things are happening smoother and we're not forgetting stuff, and it's been good.
Honestly, the workflow that you have in your agency is going to be a little bit more unique than other people's, which is why we don't have a built for you workflow for agencies. I call things pending cancellations or NOCs, notice of cancellation. Everybody has a different term. PIF, policies enforced, doesn't mean the same thing to other people, I personally also like to have buckets that have, for example, one of my favorite buckets to have in my account is called a life hot list. This is something I put into a sales workflow, life hot list, so that as I have people that I have determined to be a hot life opportunity, I want them to be on the back end of my sales pipeline under life hot list. Okay, that is me personally. That is what I want to see. And that is something that in my opinion, a lot of us should want to see is I want to see people that have opportunity to write life insurance with. Okay. Doesn't mean you have to work them today, but if you're seeing people stacked in your pipeline in a life hot list area, it's going to make you think about talking to life about with them.
Or if you see that list completely empty, it's going to make you mad.
My list is completely empty and it makes me mad.
Mine is not.
Questions, concerns, stuff you want to go over briefly?
Joey asked, is there a way to change the time frame to a default rolling 30, or do you have to manually change it every time you go back to your pipeline?
Your account will automatically be in a default rolling 30 days. I personally like to drag this out pretty far. 30 days is a good one, but when you're looking at the forecast feature, I want to see more than just these two personally, but if you're coming up to the end of the year, great, but I want to see more than this. That is just me though. Because again, your pipeline is custom. You can say, hey, I don't really frankly care about anything that's happening next month. I just care about everything that's happening this month. Cool. Change your filter. Forecast won't be accurate, but if you're not.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think one thing, we always talk about clean data when we upload, it's the maintenance in here too, that you're going to want to be diligent on, if you're not having the pipeline automatically take it from a prospect to a customer, make sure you're going into that person's profile and making these changes, because there's going to come a time when you're going to want to do something. And if you have bad data in here, it's going to be tough to make that thing happen for you, so this is the money. This is the bread and butter of any agency, is the data, the people's information. And so making sure that that information is as clean as possible at all times is important.
One thing you will notice in your built for you sales pipeline, this lead column will have the green yes as your default status. This means that anybody that is added to the system, anybody that is imported in the system will automatically populate into lead. That is not something that you have to have. You can simply remove that. So if you import a list and you're like, oh shoot, everybody's showing up in lead. Well, one, don't stress out, because you can simply come into your pipeline. You can look at all your leads, right? You can say, hey, I want to filter my entire section by deal status, and I want to filter them all by lead because I accidentally imported a huge list and they all went to lead. Well, this is where they'd all show up. And then as you're highlighting and clicking those people, you will have an actions button that appears for you to make changes. So for example, let me reset this for you. There's videos on how to do this too, but if you're like, hey, I need to get this person out of a specific deal status, you would come to actions and you would come into either move or copy group, assign or remove a deal status. Well, I want to remove this deal status, whatever that was. You can simply hit remove status and it will unlink all of the people you checked or specific people. Okay. That is an area, a way you can clean up this pipeline if you have a ton of leads that you have imported that were imported into the section because you didn't know that the deal status having a default of yes did that. Very easy fix. Also very easy fix to make sure it doesn't happen again. Okay. Questions, concerns, comments from the peanut gallery? Is there a way to, oh, Joey, we already answered that, sorry. That's it for your Workflow Wednesday call. We want to keep these under 30 minutes so that we can give you quick tips and helps every Wednesday to go over this. Next Wednesday is the day before Thanksgiving. We will not be doing a workflow call because I am going to be going to get a Christmas tree and do the whole family stuff. Which
I saw a prime rib at Sam's Club the other day, 22 pounder. It was $475.
Yeah, you sent me that, and that is